The teachings of Rabbi Rav Sprecher, Dean of Students at Diaspora Yeshiva on Mount Zion, Jerusalem.
Today's shiur was speaking about the 6 remembrances, and one of them is to remember Miriam's sin. You have the paper in front of you. It's the remembrance, Miriam. Maise Miriam, you see that? Remember what the Lord your God did to Miriam on the way when you came out of Egypt. Maise Miriam. So every day we're supposed to remember Miriam's sin, which is very problematic because we know the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva tells us it is a terrible sin to remind a Baal Tshuva of his past mistakes. Miriam did tshuva for her sin and she paid the price. So why is it that every single day we have to bring up her shame and her sin? You're not allowed to remind about tshuva of his past mistakes. And here every single morning we are reminding ourselves of Miriam's sin. And why dafka these 6? If you take a look at the sheet in front of you, the 6 remembrances. What's the first one? The Exodus from Egypt. You see that? That you may remember the days that you left Egypt, all the days of your life. What's the second one? The revelation at Mount Sinai, right? Only be careful and watch yourself very closely, lest you forget the things your eyes have seen. You shall make them known to your children and your children's children, the day that you stood before the Lord your God at Horeb. And Hashem said, assemble the people before me, and I will let them hear my words. And what's the third remembrance? Amalek. Remember what Amalek did to you on the way out of Egypt. What's the fourth one? The golden calf, right? Remember, do not forget how you provoked the Lord your God in the wilderness. What's the fifth one? Remember what Hashem did to Miriam on the way when you left Egypt. And what's the sixth one? Remember the Shabbos. So why dafka these 6 are we supposed to remember every single day? If you look at the footnote on the bottom of the page, Chanoch, you have that, the 6 remembrances. These acts of remembrance define 3 positive and 3 negative parameters of Jewish faith and life. Positively, we're supposed to remember the Exodus every day, right? We do that when we read the Shema twice a day, right, Avram? Ani Hashem Elokeichem, asher tzesi eschem eretz Mitzrayim. So reading the footnote at the bottom of the page, the 6 remembrances, these acts of remembrance define the 3 positive and 3 negative parameters of Jewish faith and life. Positively, the Exodus reminds us of divine redemption, Sinai of revelation, and the Shabbos of creation. Those are the 3 what? Positives. And what are the negative? Negatively, the golden calf reminds us of what? Sins against God. Miriam's faith reminds us of sins against our friends, especially through evil speech. Amalek's attack on the Jews showed how a failure to fear God leads to cruelty against human beings. So let's analyze these 6 and see why it's so important to remember Miriam's sin and why it doesn't go against what the Rambam rules. It is strictly prohibited to remind a Baal Tshuva of his past after he did Tshuva.
Who made this list?
Who made up these 6 remembrances? Good question, Rabbi Abramson. You know who made them up? I don't know. What?
No.
Well, we have who made up these 6? These are all taken from the Torah. Let's go over the Hebrew. Laman Tizkor, as Yom says, the first one is to remember the Exodus from Egypt. We do that in the Shema, right, Avram? We do that in the Shema. So we remember the Exodus from Egypt, right? So we can, and Mamid Har Sinai. You see the second one? Mamid Har. How do we remember Mamid Har Sinai?
What's
Mamad. You know Hebrew better than me. Mamad Har. When we stood at Har Sinai to get the Torah. That's one reason why we count Sfirat HaOmer. One reason why we count Sfirat HaOmer from Pesach to Shavuos, Gershom, is to what? Is to remind us of what? Of Mamad Har Sinai. We couldn't wait. Ready or not, right? We're counting up. Jews don't count down. We count up. the 49 days from the Exodus to what? To the revelation at Sinai. So by counting the Sphira, we remember the revelation at Sinai, how excited we were. Okay? So that's Mamad Har Sinai. Remember what Amalek did. Remember what Amalek did to us. If you're part of Jewish story, you will get Amalek. And we see it today, Amalek in many different forms today, right? If you're part of the Jewish story, you're going to get, unfortunately, Amalek. Remember what Amalek did to you on the road when you left Egypt? He met you on the way and he cut off all the weak ones. So like our peace partners today, the Hamas, they shoot rockets. Where do they shoot the rockets at? Not at the IDF soldiers, they shoot the rocket at the kindergartners. So that's Amalek. They always pick on the weak and the defenseless because they didn't fear God. So we have to remember what Amalek did. And also remember the golden calf. Remember how you made God angry in the wilderness by building the golden calf. We did tshuva for that. We did tshuva for the golden calf. And yet we're supposed to remember every single day the golden calf. Doesn't that go against also the Rambam's ruling? You're not to remind about tshuva of his wicked past. So every single day we remind ourselves that we worship the golden calf when we did tshuva. So the egel, that's in Adam Lamakim, when you sin against God, you destroy yourself. And what did Miriam do? She sinned against her brother. Right? When you sin against God, you destroy yourself. You sin against a fellow human being, you destroy yourself. And the last of the 6 remembrances is what? Shabbos. What's the root of the word Shabbos, Avram? Shav. Tshuva. Look at the word Chav. You have a paper. Shabbat, the root is the word Shav. Shuva. Shabbos is related to the word Shav, which means Shuva. So even though you did the terrible sins, you always have an opportunity to what? Tshuva. So tshuva, Shabbos is the day of tshuva. Adam Arishon, after he sinned, which psalm did he compose? Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat. Adam Arishon composed that on the day he did tshuva. Shabbat, the root is Shav. Shabbos is what? The day of tshuva. So even though you did the terrible sins, you can always do tshuva. Right? You always have tshuva. So the question is, why remember the sin of what? Of the golden calf when we did tshuva for that? We paid a heavy price. And why remember Miriam's sin? She paid a heavy price. Doesn't that go against the Rambam's ruling, Hilchos Tshuva? You're not permitted to remind about tshuva of his wicked mistakes after he did tshuva, yes?
Now, didn't Miriam do tshuva though? Wasn't she?
Of course she did tshuva. That's my question.
But the golden calf.
We didn't do tshuva?
Did tshuva.
Of course we did tshuva. Why? The second tablets.
But who apologized?
The second tablets, we did tshuva. The proof, Chanoch, that we did tshuva was he gave us the second tablets. That's proof positive we did tshuva. In fact, the Mishkan is called Mishkan or Edut, Rashi says, because the second tablets are a witness that Hashem forgave us for the sin of the golden calf. That's what's called Mishkan or Edut, says Rashi. In Pashis Pikude, the Torah is called, the Mishkan is called Mishkan or Edut. Rashi says the second tablets are testimony that we did tshuva, and as a proof that we did tshuva for the golden calf, Hashem gave us what? Second tablets.
But who did tshuva?
The Jewish people did tshuva. Right? Otherwise, God would never have given us the second tablets. In fact, when did God give us the second tablets? Zisla Yom Kippur. That's a day of Yom Slicha v'Kapara. That's a siman that God accepted our tshuva, and therefore that day became a day of tshuva for all time. So that begs the question, why what? Do we remind ourselves of the golden calf every single day? See that? The golden calf, it's underlined in yellow, Avram. See, remember, do not forget how you provoke God with the golden getchke, but that's going against the Rambam's ruling. You're not allowed to remind about tshuva of his wicked past. So every morning we're reminding ourselves of the golden calf, yes?
So the 6th remembrance is Shabbos?
The last one, you have the paper right in front of you. Right? Shabbos is the last. remember the Shabbos to keep it holy. How do we do that? By making Kiddush and Havdalah. But the Ramban says every time you say Hayom Yom Rishon, what do you say today? Hayom Yom Rishon b'Shabbat, Hayom Yom Sheni b'Shabbat. So if you say that, have in mind you're remembering the Shabbos even on Sunday. Today is the first day of Shabbat. Tomorrow is what? Second day of Shabbat. So according to the Ramban, it's not just when you make Kiddush and Havdalah, but every single day when you count when you say the Yom, you are remembering yourself of the Shabbos. So Shabbos is the last one, because Shabbos comes from the word Shav, that even though a person does sin, he can always do Tshuva. But that just begs the question, why remind us? Well, you're not allowed to remind about Tshuva of his wicked past. Okay? The second Luchos is a sign that we did Tshuva. Otherwise, God would never give us the second Luchos. Right? So to answer this question, Avram, we will what? Ask another. Tomorrow morning, when you put on your Tefillin Shel Rosh, there's something very strange peeking out from Tefillin Shel Rosh. Calf's hair. Hairs from a calf. Tomorrow morning, Avram, check it out. There's calf's hair sticking out from your Tefillin Shel Rosh. Avram, what's that all about? The Zohar says something amazing. You're sitting down? Mm-hmm. The calf's hair of the Tefillin Shel Rosh is to remind us of the golden calf disco. So every morning, Chava, when a man puts on his Tefillin Shel Rosh, he looks at the calf's hair sticking out. We have to remember what? The Egel. But again, why rub it in? Chanoch, we did Tshuva for the Egel. So why are we supposed to have a Tefillin with Rosh with calf's hair sticking out? Kidei Levaishoi. The Rambam adds a word, it's a sin to remind about Tshuva of his past sins if you want to, how do you say, for shame him in English? To embarrass and shame him. Then it's a sin. But if your intention is something else, for instance, when we wear the calf's hair tefillin, says the Zohar, what are the Tefillin Shel Rosh, Chanoch? We get to wear God's crown every single morning. Despite building a golden calf on our honeymoon, God continues to love us to wear his crown every day. So the calf's hair of the tefillin is not to shame us, it's to what? Demonstrate how much God loves us. Despite the fact that on our honeymoon we worship the golden calf, Afal Pikain, I can't stop loving you. God continues to command us to wear his crown with the calf's hair sticking out to remind us how much Hashem loves us. That despite our sin, HaKadosh Baruch Hu still wants us to wear his golden crown, which is what? Which is the tefillin. Okay? So remember how much Hashem loves us. So every morning, Avram, tomorrow morning, you look at your tefillin, look at the calf hair, what are you supposed to remember? Who loves you, baby? Right? Despite sinning, right? The golden calf, 40 days after we heard God speaking to us, 40 days. Hashem says, I still want you to wear your tefillin, my crown, despite the fact that you built a golden calf. So there, it's not to shame us, it's in order to what, Abraham?
Wake us up.
To demonstrate how much he loves us. Okay? Now, so that explains why we mention the golden calf every day. It's to applaud God's love for us. Now, getting to Miriam. See, Avram says, it says, remember what Miriam, I think it's underlined in yellow, no? Yeah. Remember what Miriam, she spoke Lashon Hara. But wait a minute. By the burning bush, didn't Moshe become a Metzorah? His hand became leprous. Bila, you remember that? Mm-hmm. So how come it doesn't say, remember what the Lord your God did to Moshe at the burning bush? Moshe slandered the Jewish people. Remember, Aaron said they won't believe. Remember? God said, what are you speaking Lashon Hara about my kids? His hand became leprous. Exodus 4, check the burning bush. So why don't we say, remember what the Lord your God did to holy Moses at the burning bush? He spoke Lashon Hara before Miriam. And he didn't speak it about a sibling, Chava, he spoke it about what? Am Yisrael. He said the Jews won't believe. God says, what do you mean they won't believe? Leper, his hand became leprous. So Avram, you hear my question on the table. Why don't we remember what Hashem did to Moses? So you can say, Avram, Lifnei Matan Torah, Moshe spoke Lashon Hara, Torah wasn't given yet, okay? Miriam spoke Lashon Hara after what? After Matan Torah. But wait a minute. One of the 7 Noachide laws is do not commit murder or character assassination. Killing me softly with words. Killing me softly with words. So one of the 7 Noachide laws, Avram, is also slander, character assassination. So isn't that one of the 7? Even in English it's called character assassination. That's against the Noachide religion. So how could holy Moses slander the Jewish people and he got punished, and yet we don't remember that? Professor Chai, hear my question? I think it's a good kasha. Avram, we should add number 7. Number 7. Remember what holy Moses did? He spoke slander against the Jewish people, and he became a leper in Exodus 4 by the burning bush. No one talks about it. Why do we single out Miriam? If you analyze the question very carefully, Avram, half of the answer is where? If we are going to single out holy Moses, Chava, we'll be shaming him. And Moses did tshuva for slandering the Jewish people. He did tshuva. So we don't mention holy Moses' leprosy because that would be shaming him. And you're not allowed to remind about tshuva of his past sins. There's an extra sheet if you want it here. Yeah. But Miriam's sin is something totally different. Chavi, you're sitting down. There's a strange Rabbeinu B'chai. Very strange, Avram. Miriam spoke Lashon Hara. It says God appeared to her pitom. Suddenly God appeared to her. Ma pitom. So Rabbeinu B'chai says something strange, Bill. Why did God appear suddenly to Miriam? Not to give her a chance to do tshuva. Professor, you understand this? Rabbeinu Bachya. Some say Rabbeinu B'chai, some say Rabbeinu Bachya, some say potato, some say potato. Rabbeinu B'chai makes a strange statement. God appeared pitom to Miriam to turn her into a leper because God did not want her to what? To do tshuva. Daniel, hello, I don't understand that. What does God want more than anything? Tshuva.
And also for her to understand that.
What is Rabbeinu B'chai talking about?
It was also so that Moshe would understand that he has to be at call suddenly. That was why he made the point of
Why not give her a chance to do tshuva? Why zap her suddenly?
You should learn something out of it.
Oh, I'm glad. Okay, very good. Very good. Rabbi Yosef, she's right. But what are you supposed to learn? What are you supposed to take from it? How do you say lekach? What are you supposed to take from it, right? What can we learn from this? The Zohar says something incredible. You know, the Zohar sometimes is not so mystical. First and foremost, the Zohar is a commentary on Tanakh. Before Rashi, Avram. Sometimes the Zohar is not so mystical. The Zohar is a commentary on Tanakh. The Zohar asks, how could Miriam slander her brother? She loved him like a mother. Who was responsible for his birth? Right? She said, Abba, your decree is worse than Paroi. So if it wasn't for little Miriam, baby Moses would never be what? Born. Little Miriam. And after he was born, who babysat for him by the river? down by the riverside. Little Miriam. Who got the wet nurse for him? Who made sure that the wet nurse was nobody else but his mother. She doted over him. And she loved him like a mother, a big sister. How all of a sudden did she slander him? Lillian, hear the question the Zohar asked?
When his real mother's 160, you see what he had.
So the Zohar says it's very important, David, smichas aparshias. In the Torah, when the two parshas next door, Professor, they have to be what?
Related.
Right before Miriam slanders her brother, which parsha do we have? Eldad u'Meidat nisnabim b'machne. Eldad and Meidat prophesied that Moshe is going to die in the Midbar and the Jewish people come into Pisgat Zev. This is before the Chet HaMaraglim, Daniel. Before the Chet HaMaraglim, we're all coming to Pisgat Zev. To Talpiot. So she hears this incredible prophecy. The greatest of all Jews, my holy brother, he's going to die in the Midbar. And everybody's going to come to Pisgat Zev. What sin did he commit that he deserves such a terrible punishment? I know. He broke his wife's heart. He divorced Zipporah. He broke her heart. And therefore Hashem condemned him to what? Death. Quick, Aaron. Let's figure out a way that Moses would what? Remarry Zipporah. And then the Nevuah Lara could be canceled. We know the Rambam tells us, Nevuah Lara yochel levatel. A Nevuah Latov cannot change. But if God says a prophecy for evil Kanivel Chava, it's subject to what? Change. See what the Zohar is saying? It's not so mystical. It's in her love for her brother. Why does my holy brother have to die? What sin did he commit? All the Jews are coming to Pisgat Zev before the Chet HaMaraglim. It must be he was Messiah, his wife. He caused her anguish and agony and aggravation by divorcing her. Aaron, let's get them back together again. And then what? The evil decree will be canceled and my holy brother will what? So what's wrong, David? She was so right, but she was wrong. Because she should have gone directly to him. She went behind his back, Bilhah. If she would have gone to holy Moses directly, hey bro, I got a bone to pick with you. Can we talk it over? Mei achuz. But Chanoch, she went behind his back. That's Lashon Hara. But she's coming from a good place, says the Zohar. It's in her love and concern for him. I don't want my holy brother to die. Fine, Miriam, but why go behind his back, Daniel? Confront him directly. You have something to say to somebody, even a bro or a sis. Gershom, you go directly to him. You don't go behind his back. And that's why it's Lashon Hara. So where were we? So a very strange Beinu B'chai. God zapped her suddenly, pitom, not to give her a chance to do tshuva. And we remember her sin every day, and not Moses' sin. Moses also became a leper. The answer is because Moses' sin would be what? To shame him. You're not allowed to remind about tshuva. But Miriam's sin, we're not shaming her, we are applauding her. What? There's a strange Medrash Rabbah in Pashas Tazri Avram. Kol negoyim royeh chutz minega atzmo af lo niga krovav. A Kohen who is mitayir and mitame, Avram, who declares a person a mitzorah and who declares him an unmitzorah? It's not doctor, it's only a Kohen. So Medrash Rabbah says that all negoyim a Kohen can examine except his own nega and his relative's nega. So Miriam had a problem. She's a mitzorah, right? The only one who can declare her tahor is what? A Kohen. But the problem is the only Kohen at the time was what? Her brother and her nephews. So according to all the laws of what? Of halacha, Miriam is stuck forever. She can never be pronounced Torah, David, because the only way she can be pronounced Torah is if a Kohen examines her and it says Torah. But a Kohen is not permitted to examine a nega of a relative. And in those days, the only Kohanim on the scene were her relatives. So it looks like Miriam is stuck forever. She would remain a leper for life. But she never gave up hope. She never lost her emunah. Miriam's matzav seemed hopeless. David, can you tell me why?
Because she couldn't be declared a non-leper by a relative, and the only Kohanim who existed were her relatives.
Beautiful. It looks like she's doomed forever. But she never gave up hope. She had emunah b'tochen that Hashem is going to find a way. And the Medrash Rabbah says, yes, Hashem found the way. Ein korav roya hanagoyim, Hashem said. Mi roya nega Miriam, ein korav roya hanagoyim. El omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ani kohen, v'ani mitahara. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, I am a kohen, and I will purify her. And that's who purified her. Are you getting this? But then she got cured, but only a Kohen could pronounce Torah. So when we remember Miriam's sin, it's not to shame her, Chava. It's what? She never gave up. A Jew is never allowed to give up. What a situation. Moshe's leprosy we can't remember every day because that's shame him. That's not allowed to do it about Tshuva. But Miriam's leprosy, we're applauding her, Bilha. She taught us that even though when the situation looks hopeless, a Jew never loses emunah on Hashem. So therefore, remember Miriam's leprosy, but not Moshe's. Are you getting this? It's a praise for Miriam. It gives us a chizuk. Don't despair, hang in there. I just made that up. Don't despair, hang in there. Situation looks hopeless. What is Miriam? When you read this every morning, what do you see? Even though the matzav looks hopeless, Miriam taught us that Hashem will never let us down. Even though when it doesn't look like there's any way out. Avram, 3 years after the Holocaust, 600,000 Jews against millions of Arabs with 7 well-equipped armies, tanks and planes and artillery, and we had seltzer bottles and World War I rifles. That's what we had. World War I rifles and seltzer bottles. The situation looked hopeless. Mechemet HaShichrur was the greatest miracle. I don't know, 600,000 survivors of concentration camps, giving a World War I rifle, no ammunition, against 7 well-trained armies with tanks and planes and artillery. Hopeless. But we learned the lesson of Miriam's mitzaras, that a Jew never gives up hope. So therefore, we read that every morning, Avram. It's not to shame her, it is to praise her. Hashem said, I am a Kohen, and I will purify her. So therefore, God zapped her immediately. God didn't want her to give her a chance to do tshuva, says Rabbeinu Bechai. Why? Because if she do tshuva, Avram, she would become a Metzorah. But Hashem wanted her to become a Metzorah to teach us that even though the situation looks hopeless, never give up hope. Miriam's the one that teaches that. So Hashem didn't give her a chance to do tshuva. You got to become a Metzorah, Miriam, to prove your emunah b'tochen in Hashem, that a Jew never gives up hope even though the situation looks hopeless. It's like the 6-Day War. Didn't look hopeless, Avram. They were digging thousands of graves in the parks. People were panicking. It's unbelievable. Situation looked hopeless. And Yom Kippur War is even a greater miracle. Yom Kippur War is even a greater miracle. My brother was in yeshiva here in Yom Kippur War in the Mount Carmel. He looked down And he saw there were Syrian tanks in downtown Haifa. Syrian tanks in downtown Haifa with no one to stop them. They thought it's a second Holocaust. My brother's yeshiva was in the Hara Carmel looking down. They thought they're in the Twilight Zone. Syrian tanks in downtown Haifa, no one to stop them. What happened? All of a sudden, the lead tank commander gets up, he pops his head out and he waves the tanks back. He waves them back. So after the war, they asked him what happened. He says, we thought the Jews are doing a sucker play on us. It looked too easy. They're trying to sucker us in to destroy the tanks somewhere. Who gave him that machshava? It would have been a massacre. All of a sudden, he panicked. It looks too easy. The Jews are not so stupid. It's a trap. Let's pull out. My brother, Professor Eyewitness, my brother Mendel. Unbelievable. Situation hopeless? But we read Miriam's story every single morning, so my brother didn't give up hope. And Jews never give up hope. That is the message of Miriam. What a story, huh? In God we trust, Avram, all others pay cash. The Gemara in Shabbos says, after 120, a person is going to stand trial. The first question they asked him, Osakta be'emunah. The first question they ask him seems to be, Avram, a contradiction. The Gemara in Shabbos seems to contradict. One place it says the first question they ask you, Osakta be'emunah. Another place the Gemara says the first question they ask you, Osakta be'pirya v'rivya. Were you busy what? Trying to make babies. Doesn't say Kayamta Pirya V'rivya, says the Marsha, because God can't ask you, did you have children? Because that's not up to God. That's up to God, not to me. But God asked you, Asakta B'pirya V'rivya. Were you busy trying to have children? Whether you have or not, that's not your business, that's Hashem's business. Asakta, were you busy in trying to have children? According to Tosfos in Chagiga, page 2, every time you have marital relations with your wife, even though it doesn't result in the birth of a child, you're doing pruvu. So I repeat that, Avram. Tosfos in Chagiga Dav Bet, you can look it up. It says every time you have marital relations with your wife, even though it does not result in the birth of a child, you're still doing the mitzvah of pruvu. And Ben Ish Chai says that every time you have relations with your wife, even though it doesn't result in a physical birth, you're creating a neshama in heaven. Avram, the Ben Ish Chai in Parshas Vayechi. He said he'd take it to the bank, Ben Ish Chai. You have married relations with your spouse, no physical baby, but you're creating a soul in heaven. So where was I? And the third, the Gemara says, the first question they ask you is, Kavata itim la Torah. Did you come to the Asper Shiva every day? I mean, did you have a set Torah study every day? So Chanoch are mixed up. The Mashal says, in one place says, the first question they ask you was what? Asakta b'yamunah. Other Gemara says, the first question, Asakta b'rivya. And the third is, Kavat itim la Torah. So how could they all be first? So Mashal answers, we know the godly soul, professor, is made up of what? Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. So the Nefesh is asked, Asakta v'pirya v'rivya. The Ruach is asked, what? Asakta v'yamunah. And the Neshama is asked, Kavaitim l'Torah. The godly soul is divided into 3 sections. So each section of the godly soul, Chava, gets a question, matim for it. So, Asakta b'yamunah. What does that mean? Were you honest in business? What?
Yeah.
But I have no business. Chava, I have no business. Asakta b'yamunah. Were you busy with the business of having yamunah? Even though you're not a businessman, Avram. Asakta b'yamunah. Ainli esek. Were you busy in the business of believing that everything that happens to me, a good hair day or never a bad hair day, is all Hashem? Asakta b'yamunah. Did you have amunah that whatever happens to you, It's all HaKadosh Baruch Hu pulling the strings. So it's a praise for Miriam. She taught us to have emunah, even though the matzav looks what? Hopeless. So when we remind ourselves of her sin, Avram, we are praising her emunah, which is a lesson for us that we never allowed to give up hope. Never give up hope. The 1948 war, 6-day war, the Yom Kippur War, it's unbelievable the miracles here. The Gemara says, Ein bal nes makir et niso. We're too close. Therefore, Moshe wanted Yisro to stick around. You'll be our eyes. Remember he said that? Why do we need a Midianite tour guide for, Chanoch? Hashem is the one that guides us in the Midbar. We follow that cloud. Why would Moses say, we need your eyes, Yisro? Even though he was licensed, we don't need a Midianite tour guide. So Rashi says, you'll be our eyes. You'll be able to give us a perspective on the miracles. The Jewish people are surrounded by miracles. We take it for granted. You'll be our eyes, Yisro. You're an outsider. You'll be able to open up our eyes to what? To the miracles.
See what we got.
Right?
To see what we actually.
So Yisro, stick around. You'll be our eyes. So little Miriam, we remember what she did to praise her. It's just amazing. She became a leper for 7 days until HaKadosh Baruch Hu was able to say to her. So for 7 days, even though the cloud went up, the Jewish people refused to what? To move. The cloud went up. The pasuk says, follow that cloud. God said, mifurnished. How do you say that in English? Mifurnished.
No, not going.
We're not going. Follow that cloud. We're not going.
No go.
Without Miriam, we're not going. So millions of people waited. Rashi says, why? Because 80 years ago, little Miriam, how old was she? 6 years old. She waited by the river there behind the bulrushes. What's it called? Bulrushes. She babysat for her little bro 1 hour. So therefore, 80 years later, she waited for her brother 1 hour. 80 years later, millions of people waited her not 1 hour, but what? 7 days. And even God waited for her, even though the cloud went up. The Jewish people says, we're not going. God says, well, I can't go without you. Don't leave home without it, Avram. So the Jewish people are not going, God's not going either. So Rav Nebenzahl asked the question, the great Rav Nebenzahl, the chief rabbi of the Rova. He says, you don't understand. What did Miriam do? Her mother told her, go babysit for your little brother. What's she going to say? No. Here's a quarter. Go babysit for your little brother. So she sat there for an hour. So what's the big deal? So therefore, 80 years later, Chava, millions of people have to wait for her 7 days. What's the message, says Rav Nebenzahl. Avram, you got to hear this. We do a small act of chesed for a little brother or a big brother or any person. We think it's garnished. In heaven, it makes major headlines. Little Miriam. Did she think that millions of people are going to wait for her because she waited for her little brother? Chava, did she think? What am I doing? My mother told me to babysit. She even gave me 50 cents. Half a shekel. It doesn't matter. You do a chesed for another person. It what? In Shemayim, it has unbelievable, how do you say Roshem in English? Roshem. Impression. Great impression. That 80 years later, Hashem and Am Yisrael waited for her 7 whole days. One small act of chesed. Professor goes a long, long way. That's Rav Nebenzahl. Now I'll tell you my Rebbe Rav Pam Zatzal. He always had a smile on his face, even though he was hurting, he was sick, and his wife was sick. He says you have have to smile. When you're smiling, the world smiles with you. How does that song go, Avram? Right? He says, in Berchat Kohanim, every morning the Kohanim bless us, Chanoch. Yor Hashem Ponam Elecha. May God shine His face on you, says Rashi. What does Rashi say? God shows you a smiley, happy face. The Kohanim bless us. Who loves you, baby? HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows you a smiley, happy face. Says Rapam, every time you smile on a fellow Jew, what are you doing? V'halachta b'drachav, ma'hu afata. Every time you smile on a fellow Jew, or any human being, that's a tzelem alakim, right? Which mitzvah are you doing? How do you say English, v'halachta b'drachav? Shalom, how do you say v'halachta b'drachav? Walking God's ways. Since God smiles on us, the Birchot Kohanim, God shows us a smiley, happy face. So every time we show another person a smiley, happy face, according to my great Rebbe Rapam, which mitzvah are you doing? V'halachta b'drachav. Walk this way. Who said that? Walk this way. Walk in God's ways. It's incredible. And it doesn't cost no money to smile. There should be a gemach for smiles.
Absolutely.
Right? It should be a gemach for smiles. Kostet kein Geld, Avram. Some people they can't smile. They're like constipated. But it doesn't cost any money. It's free. And you're walking in God's ways. You smile on somebody, it changes his whole day. He's having a bad hair day. And you smile on him, he gets home. Maybe he won't yell at his wife and his kids. Because you smiled at him. It could change his whole perspective. You never know. Only after 120 you'll know. Wow. The price of a smile, my great Rebbe said. And therefore he had great babies. Yaakov Konetsky, Zatzal, Rapam, Rav Shor. Rav Rebbe they always had a shmeichel. A twinkle in the eye and a shmeichel. All of them. That's a sign of a great man. A great man, Gershom. Right? Put on a happy face. How does that song go, Avram? Put on a happy face. HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts on a happy face for us. And that's in the Birchot Kohanim Chav every morning. The Kohanim bless us. Mahu afata. So that's the message of little Miriam, a small act of chesed. We're just coming out of Shavuos. It's not that long ago, Yehuda. The book of Ruth. Why was it incorporated in Tanakh? Why? The chesed that Ruth did for what? Naomi. Ruth did acts of chesed for her mother-in-law. Big deal. Did she know she'll be part of Tanakh? She was kind to her mother-in-law. Mother-in-law. David, did she know that act of chesed would make her part of Tanakh?
No.
She didn't know. But it did. The book of Ruth, there's no mitzvahs. There's just chesed, which is the greatest mitzvah of all. And did she know because she was kind to her mother-in-law, she would become the grandmother of what? Of Mashiach. Did she know that, Abraham? Well, but that's why she was kind to her mother-in-law. So she probably didn't think it's a big deal, but in heaven, it made major headlines. It made her part of Tanakh, Megillat Ruth, and it made her the grandmother of what? Mashiach. Yeah. So next time, when we want to be kind to somebody and we think it's nothing, we have to know, Chava, that what? In heaven, it's what? Big deal. Olam chesed yiboneh. It's a pasuk in Tehillim Avram 89. Olam chesed yiboneh. Who said the world is a stage? Before Shakespeare, King David said, Olam chesed yiboneh. What does that mean? God built the world that people should do chesed for each other. The whole reason that God made the universe, Abraham, says King David, is that people should do chesed one for the other. Otherwise there's no point. Why are we here, Abraham? And therefore the Gemara in the Dorim says, Oni choshev kamet. A poor person is like he's dead. What, a put down on a poor person? Why? Because if a person is poor and he's scrounging around for his next meal, can he do chesed? He's depressed, he's tzabrochen. A poor person, poverty struck, he can't do chesed. And if he can't do chesed, he might as well be what? Dead. Wow. What a message. What a message we learned from Miriam and from Ruth, from ladies. Chava, you ladies put us to shame, right? What do you mean? Why? The word neshama, the word Torah, the word shechina, the word mitzvah are all what? For all feminine. And the parsha that we read on Shabbos, Shlach Lecha. So Rashi says you learn out a minyan from the 10 meraglim. The meraglim were mechal Hashem shemayim, so we need 10 men to be mekadosh Shem shemayim. Said Rabbeinu Bechai, how come women don't have a minyan? Chava, because if they ain't broke, don't fix it. Rabbeinu Bechai says this. He says we sin with the 10 meraglim. A terrible chil Hashem, so we need a minyan 10 for 10. How do you metaken the chil Hashem? Omen yehesh me'rabah with a minyan. But since women never sin with the meraglim, says Rabbeinu Bechai, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So therefore, women, they get to Shechina one-on-one. They get to Shechina one-on-one. They don't need a minyan. Not that we don't need them. They don't need us. They don't need us. You ladies don't need us. We, to get to Shechina, we need 10. Ladies get to Shechina one-on-one.
They pray by themselves, they get it as good as when we go.
That's right. So if a woman davens with a minyan, she's lowering herself. Why do you want to do that for? Women off the wall, they don't realize that. Right? You the Beinu Bechai, not me. He was before women's lived in the 1000s. The great Mekubal. Women don't need a minyan because they never sinned with the 10 meraglim. They don't need a 10 minyan for the 10 meraglim. Men, we need a minyan. But women never sin, so therefore they get to Shechina one-on-one. Isn't that incredible? Women make the bracha Shasani Kirtzono. God, you made me exactly the way you are. Why do we say Shelo Esani Isha? That I put down? No, Gemara Bracha says that the worst pain in the world is the pain of childbirth. Gemara Bracha says, we thank God you didn't make me a woman. I haven't got time for the pain. A man could not handle the pain of childbirth. So we say Shelo Esani Isha. Thank you for sparing me the pain of labor. But women make a bracha Shasani Kirtzono. God, you made me exactly the way you are. So now we learned, Avram, a big principle that when we are mentioning our sin and Miriam's sin, it's not to put us down, but to applaud us. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu continues to love us despite the Chet HaEgel. And Miriam's sin is to applaud her, that even though her matzav looked hopeless, she never gave up hope. And that's what you need, especially in Eretz Yisrael, when the matzav sometimes looks hopeless, with our political parties, right? Never give up hope. Look at Miriam. She's a beacon of hope. And therefore we mention her sin, not to put her down, Yehuda, but to what? To applaud her and praise her.
For more of Rabbi Sprecher's teachings, visit rabbisprecher.com.